Hey, everybody, it's Bernie Gallerani, and we are going to bring you a great interview today from an agent that we work with on our team. And I find the story very interesting, and we're going to hear from Josie a little bit about how she got started. So, Josie, thank you for being
Of
here on
course.
this. And you've been with us how long now?
Almost 2 years.
2 years. I mean, was it like a summer start, kind of a spring start of like '03 maybe, or
Oh,
'04? '04, I
03.
guess. I'm s- Listen, I'm dating myself.
What?
I've already screwed this interview up, haven't I?
Yes, I've been here since '03. I was 3 years
Since
old.
23, or I guess 24, you've been here since 24. So
Yeah.
maybe the late spring of 26 will be 2 years for you, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So you got in the business, obviously, real estate. Had you sold real estate anywhere else, or is this your first place you've hung your license?
No, I practiced real estate, but I didn't have like my active license. So I would go like to meetings and different things, but I was in nursing school.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that about you.
Yes.
You were in nursing school?
I was in nursing school.
Okay.
And I was obsessed with schooling. So one summer I didn't have like any college classes. So I was like, I'm going to go get my real estate license. So I tried that out, got my license, and then went back to nursing school the next fall.
Did you graduate from nursing school?
No, I graduated, but in science, not in nursing, because I still had a whole other year left. And I was also alone, an hour and a half away from home, and I was paying like $1,700 in rent, working 3 jobs, and being a full-time nursing student. So I was like, I need to start working.
Wow, I didn't even know that. So, did mom and dad or didn't help you kind of pay for school or anything like that? Did they contribute to any of that, or
Yeah, they helped
They
me
did?
pay for school. They didn't help me with like rent and
living
everything.
expenses and things like that?
I
So you were
figured
still
that.
responsible for taking care of yourself there,
Mhm.
and so you still had the rent and the daily expenses of just living, and then decided to take real estate classes. So why real estate? Why was that an interest?
I always found myself just scrolling on Zillow, and I'm like, I could do this for a job. And I always thought it was going to be like some sort of like part time,
Yeah.
but obviously, this is not a part time career.
No. Well, most agents try to make it that way.
Yeah.
But was our brokerage firm the worst? The worst. Listen to me. The first brokerage firm you hung your license in, or did you
Mhm.
go somewhere else?
No, I called Dennis Autry.
Okay.
He
Oh,
was
wow.
my neighbor.
Oh, that's right. I think you told me
Yeah.
he was your neighbor. He recommended here, right?
Yeah, I was like, Dennis, where do I need to go? And he said, hands down, you need to go to Bernie's office. So
Wow, that's cool.
came here, interviewed with Kurt.
Wow.
And started.
That's right. I forgot he recommended. Dennis and I are good friends. I got him in Mike Ferry coaching back in the day, and he was. I don't know if maybe I shared the story with you, but I'll share it to you again. He used to see my name up on the board, on the eraser board of all these listings that I was taking, and yet he didn't know me because he worked upstairs. And I worked down kind of in the basement where, all the wayward, toys were, where nobody really wanted to be. And it's like everybody wanted to be upstairs in this really great, elaborate office, not downstairs in the basement. It's kind of like a little prison or a little dungeon down there. But I actually chose to be down there because it was quiet. And so anyways, one day he runs into me and he's like, man, you're Bernie. You're the guy that has all these listings on the board. And he goes, can I pick your brain? I said, sure. So we started talking. And he says, well, what do I need to do to kind of charge my real estate career? So I gave him a book. And I said, well, by the way, I give everybody this book, meaning go get this book, right? I tell everybody the same story, and nobody ever gets the book, and hardly anybody ever reads it. A week later, he comes back to me. He has the book in his hand. He has it all highlighted, and he goes, man, this was an amazing book. What's next? What do I do next? And I said, number 2, I said, you have to leave the upstairs and come down to the basement. He's like, well, why is that important? I'm like, don't ask questions. Just come on down to where the basement is. So he does, which shocked the heck out of me because I'm like, wow, this guy's really he really wants to be successful. So he moves down there. He's like, okay, now what? And so then I said, okay, you have to get involved with this coaching program. And he goes, okay. And he gets involved and he goes to the event and gets involved with coaching. And then, of course, the rest of his story is history. He just started selling lots of houses. He and I have just stayed really good friends. And so I appreciate him recommending, and he's equally as qualified, I guess, as I would be, other than I have a real estate brokerage firm and he doesn't. He just kind of goes out and sells houses.
Well, what is he doing now?
Well, he's sort of kind of, I think, maybe putting his foot in towards somewhat retirement. He just built a really great home. Did you know he built a new lake home?
That was his dream.
That was his dream, and he's able to do that. So that's kind of cool. He's just a good guy. Love him a lot. Awesome. So you came here and you became a realtor. For the first stage of a realtor in our company. Let's talk a little bit about that. So you jumped in, you learned what your challenges were, where did you get discouraged? Where did you see wins? Where did you see hope? Where did you see difficulty? Let's talk about that first kind of stage, because I know you're on the third stage today of being back into being a realtor. But first stage realtor, outside, left being a realtor for a short time. So talk to me a little bit about stage one. You came in, learning the system. What went on in your head at that time?
I was very determined. I would stay up super late, wake up super early. I would, focus on writing scripts, learning the business. And then I just realized, I'm like, this isn't taking off as quick as I thought it would. And of course, you know how I am with having patience. I'm very impatient.
Yeah.
And I like to see the results of all of the fruits of the labor.
Sure.
And well, I would go into the office and call. I'd be here until, 8:30. And then I think that you and Wendy even got a alarm that I set off the alarm at like 2 a.m. one time. But I was very determined, and
it's pretty disturbing when your alarm goes off at 2 a.m. and it's your brand new agent in here.
Yeah.
You're like, what are they doing?
That's true.
That's funny.
So I was just very determined to be successful, because this is plan A was nursing, plan B is real estate, and I don't have a plan C. So I have to make this work. And just finding that I had like a lot of failures up front, that was very discouraging for me, and trying to navigate and figure out, okay, who's serious, who's not serious, and trying to navigate like those difficult conversations.
So what was the most difficult? Just was it your age at that time? Because I think you were, 22 or 23 when you first started?
24.
You were 24. So was it your age? Was it your inexperience? What was... Because very few people at 24 years old can really make it in real estate. It's typically a person who has a little bit older, a little bit more maturity in life, because you're dealing with people with buying homes and things like that. So what was your biggest challenge with the struggles that you had?
I guess just not having that experience in life to be able to relate with people. You guys said that my age was going to be an issue also, because who's going to trust a 24-year-old with $1 million house purchase?
Yeah.
Which is very understandable. So I spoke with, Elisa, and she was very young whenever she started.
She had a lot of success.
And she said, know your contracts in and out. Make sure that you're on your game 100% of the time, so that way that you can beat out all of the, 40, 50-year-old agents that have been in the business for a long time. And I think making that switch over to the ISA position to, one, talk to more people in a short amount of time, and learning the patterns of people in their conversations, and knowing, okay, who's serious, who's not serious, am I wasting my time here, prioritizing, who needs to be dealt with first.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So when you were in, we'll call it stage one, when you were in stage one and you were going through your bumps and bruises of kind of, should I be doing this? Can I do this? Are they right? Am I too young? Blah, 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 blah. It's not, age really isn't a factor if you don't make it one. And we kind of sort of could have planted a seed that it could have been a factor. We just typically see younger people struggle. And so you're in the struggling state. Tell me how the idea of joining another part of my company, which was the inside sales team, how did that trickle into your brain? Why did you think that would actually be an option for you? And when you came to us with that idea, were you thinking that was long-term, or were you just trying to get to learn something different so you could jump back into the sales side?
So I joined the ISA team, and I'm like, all they do is prospect for, 6-7 hours a day.
Yeah.
So if I want to get really, really good at this really, really fast, then I think talking to more people, talking to at least 50 people a day, sometimes, 60 or 70, and then just setting appointments for the agents and working out that way, I would be able to improve my skills for, in a shorter amount of time.
Was that hard for you knowing that you were an agent and then you went to the ISA team and now you're setting appointments for the agents, which is what they were doing for you before you made the jump over there?
Mhm.
Was that hard for you to wrap your mind around that that's the seat you were sitting in when, because at some point, did you feel like you failed in the first stage of the real estate side? Did you feel like you failed in that area and then you jumped over, or did you know that you were coming back ultimately? What was your thoughts on that decision?
Well, I just wanted to try to get good really fast. So
Okay.
that
So,
was my game
okay.
plan.
All right.
And I didn't think that I failed because I think I sold like 5 homes in 4 months. And then one of them
That's
I
good.
pulled out of the pool, which isn't terrible, but I wanted, to be a high producer
Yeah.
and to make sure that I was setting myself up for success. And I don't want to be, you know, 30, 35, 40, still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, no, and what you did was the smartest thing you could have done. I think when I heard that you wanted to do that, I thought that's really perfect because it's going to give you a little bit development time. Obviously, you get a steady paycheck coming in, which is probably important because you were paying for your own rent and your your apartment, things like that. So you needed that income. Did that play a stress on you at all? But the reason I ask that is we have agents who we think would be really great people here, but they don't have any financial reserves for their everyday life. And so to get themselves off the ground in the real estate business is a challenge. Were you concerned about the financial side when you first started? I mean, you sold 4 or 5 houses. So was financing somewhat of an issue that helped you make a decision to move over to the ISA department?
I don't think it was financing because I came into this knowing that I wouldn't see a paycheck for a very long time. I didn't think that I would make, well into the 6 figures my first year, but I didn't think it was going to be that much less.
Mm-hmm.
So I think moving into the ISA position helped me, find my footing, but also like really helped me improve my skills. I think a lot of people get into this thinking that they're, going to just take off like a rocket. And
We love the enthusiasm, but then the reality shows up, right?
we always talk about the 90-day sales cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we have this great saying, right? We talk about the fantasy land and the reality, right? That's part of our listing presentation. We talk about the fantasy land thinking that sellers have of what they want in their pricing. And then the reality is their pricing typically is a little bit too high for the market. So those things have to be adjusted. It's no different from people that get in the real estate business and they have this fantasy land idea of what they think real estate really is. And then they get into the battle of actual real estate and they're like, uh-oh, this is a lot more challenging than I thought. So what did you learn most about being over in the ISA department?
I learned mostly like just with talking with people. This is going to sound terrible, but when someone starts sitting there and telling you about all of their problems, they're probably just looking for someone to listen. They're not really looking for someone to help them with their real estate career.
Wow, that's big. So could you identify, I mean, because you probably found that the people that were just really serious were just serious about the conversation, and other people wanted to tell you why they aren't moving forward or why they can't move forward, and a lot of emotional drama comes out of that, right? That's cool. How long did you sit in that department, in the ISA department?
So I was over there, I think we had planned for 6 months, but I could only take 3.
What ate at? That's funny. So you were excited about it at first, and then you realized, well, shoot, this is not where I want to be either. But you learned a lot. So what'd you learn the most about being over there? Like, I know you said that you learned real quickly of who's serious and who's not. Was there a massive improvement in your skill by being there?
Mm-hmm.
Was it a better improvement with your attitude? Did you see something in that seat that you didn't really pay a lot of attention to when you were in the agent seat in the beginning?
I realized that prospecting, we talk about like repetitive boredom. And if you want to get over repetitive boredom, you need to sit in the ISA seat because they sit there and they do it for hours and hours and hours,
Yeah.
days after days.
Yeah.
And I think just making sure that you stick to a schedule and making sure, which always struggle with my schedule, but making sure that you stick to a schedule and follow it and then have goals and calling with intentionality rather than just calling and then,
Wow.
oh, they get an objection. Okay,
Yeah.
let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, that's good. Well, that's what we always say is there's a lot more there that people are saying than we're not picking up on because we're really not listening because we always want to talk about the next thing we want to say. Let's take a top ISA, okay? We won't have to mention any names here, but let's just say we take a top ISA. The ISA has been sitting, and just for the people that are listening, we have our agent group and we have our inside sales team. And what that means is when the leads come in, the inside sales team then scrubs those leads, sets the appointments for the agents. So Josie came in as an agent, then moved over to the ISA team, set the appointments for the agents, and then realized she didn't like that and wanted to jump back into the third stage, which is the cool part about this conversation, which is why I wanted to do this interview. But let's go back to the ISA. So you take an ISA who's had a fair level of success, talking with people for a few years, learning the dialogue, sitting on the phone for 6 or 7 hours a day. One of those ISAs made a decision, those top ISAs that have been doing this for a while, made a decision to become a realtor. How successful could they become?
I think that they would probably be competing with Elisa at that point.
Yeah, and so why do you think that? Like, what after sitting in both seats, why do you think that ISA has such a bigger advantage of being a better agent than probably most of all the agents? Why, after that experience of being on the phones for so long, what advantage does that give them?
I don't know if you remember this, but you drew out on a piece of paper a line, and there was 4 stages to that line. And stage 1 was a lead or a client, and then stage 2 was appointment, and the gap was like this big. And then from appointment to pending, it shrunk.
Yeah.
So I think learning to close that first large gap and being able to, all right, you're already successful in setting the appointment. Now all you have to do is figure out this much skill to be able to get them to a pending.
Yeah. That's exactly, well, because I believe it. I learned this from Mike Ferry, and I slowly adapted the things he taught me to find out that he was actually right, though it didn't seem very normal when he mentioned him. Like, yeah, kind of looked at him like he had a third eye kind of a thing. But he said 99% of the time, you actually settle for a follow-up call versus an appointment. And if you actually learn to listen and really pay attention to what they're saying, not just hear their words, but hear their intention, if you can read into that, you will find that most people you talk to will say yes to an appointment. But we don't listen well, and we don't ask enough really good questions. We have wrong tonality. We have wrong voice inflections. We have wrong empathy approach. And so when all of those combinations aren't around, then you set less appointments and you have less level of success. So do I hear you correctly that when you sit in the ISA seat, you start to learn all of these things? And when you can learn that skill for a couple years, then you jump over to the realtor side, you have so much better advantage than almost everybody else because you're getting paid to prospect for 6 or 7 hours a day, where the agent is not. Right. And so I think you would agree getting an agent to prospect is pretty challenging. I know you do a good job of it today, but to get a normal agent to prospect is pretty challenging, right? Why do you think agents resist it or fight the prospecting piece?
I think that they don't find the value in prospecting, at least from what I can see on the inside, looking on the inside. And then, you may not find the right client. And just like Nikki was talking about yesterday, everyone's looking for the perfect client, which doesn't really exist.
Right.
So I think that everyone is, digging in the pool and cold calling and expecting everyone to say no, or there's a reason why they're in the pool.
Yeah.
So then you don't really think that you can pull anyone out.
Yeah. It's not the pool lead that's the issue. It's the mindset of the agent. That's really the problem. So you made a decision then to say, okay, you raised your hand and said, I'm done over here in the ISA department. 6 months, we're going to cut that in half. I had a lot of concerns with that. Not that I didn't think you would have the ability to have the skill, but your age, you still were only 90 days older than the last time you attempted it, right? And even though you had a fairly decent start, selling 4 or 5 houses in 4 or 5 months, that was exceptional. Most agents were probably watching this are saying, well, God, I wish I could sell 4 or 5 houses in 4 or 5 months. They'd all dream of selling 4 or 5 houses in 4 or 5 months. But you actually knew that you were better than you could be better than that if you jumped over here. And then that ran its course. And then you got mentored by Elisa, right? And so Elisa, just so everyone knows, is our top agent here. She'll sell over 100 homes a year. And so you then started getting mentored by Elisa. You now came back to the real estate sales side, which is where we're at, which is why you're on here today. And different attitude, maybe different. Tell me a little bit what changed. Now you're like jumping seats again. Now you're in back to seat one.
Mhm.
What was your attitude at that point?
My attitude was, okay, I'm ready to get going. I'm going to take everything that I learned from the ISA team, bring it over here. And then I just found, success in that and making sure to have consistent follow up with people and making sure to prospect every day, set appointments, trying to do the same goal of, setting 2 appointments a day and having at least 10 conversations.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know, a conversation is over 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes or longer.
So making sure to like set those goals each day and, keeping up with my contacts, but maybe not as much as an ISA.
Yeah.
Because that's 7 hours of prospecting versus, 2 or 3.
2 or 3, yeah.
And then now I'm going to sell 40 houses this year.
Yeah, and so that's the cool part is now you're going from selling, let's just say, and you just started, so 4 or 5 months of 4 or 5 houses is pretty darn good, but you'll now have doubled your production. When you wanted to make the switch out, and I said, listen, you need to go hang out and have Elisa mentor you, were you fully on board with that idea? Tell me about what your mindset was, because I've always looked at you and said, and since day one and I met you, it was like, this girl has got a ton of potential. She's just young. And then a little bit of that showed up. Then you went over here, you learned some things, and you're like, hey, I want to jump out and be an agent again. And I'm like, yeah, well, you're only 90 days older than you were, and I'm not sure that's enough. But you were much more experienced at that point having conversation. What was your thought when I said, I think you need to be mentored by Elisa and kind of go under her wing a little bit and let her teach you? What were your thoughts at that point?
I was looking at it, I was like, oh, just let me off the chain.
let me free. I want to fly.
I was like, let me free.
That's
let me
awesome.
be, independent.
Yeah.
But just by working with Elisa, I've learned so much. And she has been able to help me in ways that I didn't even, think that she would be able to. And just as one example, like she is so in tune with like catching things early on in her career before it like, before she takes that dip, that she can prevent the dip and then keep being consistent and keep being, the top producer and closing 10 houses a year, a month.
Yeah.
A year.
Yeah. Oh, 10 houses a year. She'd go broke, right? Yeah. I mean, and that's why I felt, because she's, as regards to agents, probably one of the youngest people inside the company. She's not even 30 yet. And yet she sells over 100 houses a year. But she started like you, started at 20 or 21 selling houses. And so she struggled, which is why I loved you and her together, is you reminded me a lot of her when I met you, and all the struggles she went through. And what's interesting is her first probably 3 years in the business, you've been here not even 2 years, she didn't even sell anywhere near 40 homes within her first 2 or 3 years in the business. So in some ways, you're actually doing a good job pacing her. But where I felt your advantage would be that your struggles that you would deal with day in and day out because of your age, she was so close to that age already, she could relate a little bit differently. So, or relate with you very similarly. Do you feel that equation of what I just talked about, her age being very similar to yours, however, she has a high level of success, do you find that has helped you with those conversations?
I think it definitely has, because she can, look at that and say, hey, I was in that seat before, and here's what I did, to help improve. And then she's trying to help me catapult, to where I can be let off the chain, but also, she's recognizing some of the same struggles that she went through and then had to figure it out and navigate it. So she's kind of giving me, the key in the back of the book to all the answers and quizzes in the front.
Yeah. And something just came to my attention as we were talking, and I'm going to share this with the people who are paying attention to this video today. The only other agent that I ever had that was an ISA besides you was Elisa. And Elisa started as an ISA for us for 4 months and became an agent. And Elisa became the #1 agent in my team because of her experience within the ISA team. So she learned that this is actually the foundation of what we learn inside the ISA world to catapult us into high level of production as a real estate agent. You came in as an agent, which was different than her, went over to the ISA team, which you're only second person that was ever an agent that jumped over and then jumped back. So your level of success is selling 40 homes this year. A lot of that is wrapped into the ISA. And what I want people to understand is if you want to sell a high level of production, learning how to talk to people, learning scripts and skills and dialogues, and really focusing in on listening to the client really has served you well. It's served Elisa well to selling over 100 homes a year. And you're on your way to that kind of production level yourself. You've been mentored by Elisa now for, I think, the last 10, 12 months, maybe 10, 11 months, since January, I believe, right? So where we are, almost December. Biggest thing you've taken away from your start to where you are today. So the day you walked in, learned, to where you are now selling 40 homes. By the way, think about if you're selling 40 homes, I'm going to give you a little prop here to pat yourself on the back. You're 25? Okay. You are in the top 5% of highest producing realtors in the United States. Top 5%, which means there's 95%. And most of these people that are probably going to listen to you and I having this conversation are going to be in that 95%. Okay. I'm not saying the 5% won't listen. I know many 5% people that watch these videos, but 95% of the people are going to hear you here. Congratulations, because that is a feat to go from basically, I'm a little discouraged, to learning, because you did what most people wouldn't do, Josie. You actually said, I want to be so good at this job, and I realize I'm struggling over here. And for most people, they'd go, well, God, Lisa, Josie, I'd take that. You said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go learn the skill over here. I'm going to put myself back in boot camp, right? I'm going to go through the being yelled at and screamed at and learning all the things. And then I'm going to jump in and you watch what I do next. So looking at all of that, the start, the ISA, and where you are. So you came in here day 1, week 1, month 1, to the last week, last month. Let's narrow the gap of the 1 or 2 things that you've learned the most of the whole journey.
I think sticking with prospecting, following up, and prioritizing that, and making sure to ask people's motivation and time frame to help you plan, your future and your success, as well as helping them get on the right path and hitting them with a little bit of reality.
Yeah.
And also making sure that you always continue to learn and grow and read books and don't get comfortable, because then you're just going to not produce anything else.
Yeah. Well, and that's the great thing about the mentorship you have with Elisa. She'll push you to a high level. And that's the great thing about being here in our company, is because we try to push you guys to even a higher level. There's really no escaping the process of education to learn how to do this job. Like, people come in here, it's fun because you've been here long enough that you've seen it. People will come in here and they'll go, oh yeah, I can do all that. And I can't even tell you, when you get in, you interview an agent, they're like, oh, I could do that. And then the real person shows up after about week 1 or week 2. And you're like, what makes you ever think you'd ever be a success in this business behaving like you behave? It's fun to see someone like you, Josie, because most people wouldn't be as dedicated at your age to saying, I don't care what it takes. And now you are, and by being patient, because that's what you've done, even though you say you're impatient. I'm impatient too, but you have to be patient, because it wasn't built in a day. And your success, I love what Mike Ferry always says, is it took you, however old you are, that's how long it took you to get to here. And if you're changing all your behaviors, it's going to be challenging. The good news, you can change your behaviors because you're 25 years old, where somebody who's in the business older at 35 or 55 or 60 years old who gets in this business, they're like, well, this is just the way I behave. Well, your behavior is a full-on dictation of how your life's going to turn out. You actually have to change your behavior pattern, and you've been able to do that. And so most can't. And so I want to just give you some accolades on that. Where do you see your next year in 2026? What do you think your production would be? What's your goal?
My goal is 50, but I think that's more realistic if I keep doing the things that I'm doing. But I think if I push myself, I can get to 60.
Wow. And so I know you're going to get married, correct? Here's not
Yes.
too long from now. What,
Yes.
do you have a wedding date set?
We're going to the courthouse, actually.
What?
Yes.
Oh, I love this. This is awesome.
Yeah. Who wants to spend so much money on a wedding for 3 hours?
I wish my daughters could hear this conversation. No, actually,
Well-
one of my daughters had 17 people at her wedding. We just had to go to Europe to see her get married. The other one obviously is going to have a big wedding, but
With
congrats.
2 venues.
Yeah, that's right, with 2 venues. So you're going to go to the courthouse. Is there a
Yes.
date?
July 1st.
Awesome.
Yes.
I love that. Then you want to make a lot of money, right? Because you want to make sure that your soon-to-be husband looks at his wife and says, man, this is amazing. My wife makes all this money and has all this level of success, right? That's the goal. Is he looking forward to that?
I want to be able to make his income for the year in 1 month.
Well, your mentor
So-
does that,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So the person you're following, and that's the cool part. You actually, and I've always said, right, you align yourself with people that think like you, you'll end up doing what it is that they do. You couldn't have a better mentor to say, how do I go out and make 6 figures? We'll just use 6 figures every single month. And for those of you guys that are watching this, because this is going to sound, because most people don't really know what we do here, right? We help agents really serve their clients at the highest level to get a lot of client referrals, right? So people love working with you. So treating them the right way and taking care of them the right way, getting rewards financially from all of that great success that you have with your clients. To earn a 6-figure income every month, as you've seen with the person who is mentoring you right now, that's not an uncommon thing. And so why couldn't you get there? The real question is, how long are you going to take to get there?
And if I'm patient enough to do that, which I think I will be.
Or you work with a higher level of urgency.
Be, do, have.
Be, do, have, destroy it. Be, do, have. Because remember,
Yes.
the have is how much do you have before you destroy. Now, this is for the people that are watching, they're just going to go, these people are on a different planet, right? Right? To you, it's not, because you're now talking
Yeah.
our language. But the be, do, have process is, and Elisa and I go through this all the time, where how much time do you want to spend in the have before you actually make a decision to destroy? And so your level of success today, and I'll just share it for those that are, you get this, but for those that are paying attention, the level of success that you're going to have in 2025, or that you already pretty much have had in 2025, you have to look at this and go, I have to never be excited that I made six figures of money in real estate. How do I go out and make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in real estate? How do I go out and make $1 million in real estate? Mm-hmm. You can't camp out on what happened in 25. You have to destroy it, and you have to rebuild for 26, because you just doubled what you would have done when you started by being in the ISA department for 90 days. If you just really keep paying attention to what your mentors are doing, or all the other people that are doing around here, 60, I'm not trying to put pressure on you, but I'm going to, is actually a very realistic number for you in next year. But it cannot happen the same way that happened in 25.
Right.
Things do have to change.
Mm-hmm.
Things just won't you won't end up with 20 more sales in 26 just because you've been in the business for a year longer. You have to change some things, and you'll learn that from Elisa and also from me of how you do that. But I couldn't be more proud of, and which is why I wanted to do this video of you, because you had this great idea, as everyone does. You come in, it didn't quite work like you wanted it to. Most people would say, but Josie, I would have taken that success, but you're not like everybody else. You had a high level of expectation. I love that you went over to the ISA team. I was really hoping you'd stay there longer. I really think actually had you stayed there longer, you'd have been further ahead, but that's okay. We work with what we got.
I need people interaction and being in front of a screen all day.
I know. And that's not your personality anyway. And that's what's so great about your personality is you really like being around people,
Yes.
different people, and on the phone probably wasn't cutting it. But what's cool is what you learned from it. And then you're able to apply those skills and doubling what you were on pace for before, just because of that 90 days that you spent there. So I want to say thank you for spending time sharing your story with everybody here. And if you want to get a hold of Josie, because she would love to help whoever's watching this, give them your email address, please.
Josie at BernieGallerani.com.
Great last name, great first name, and great agent. So Josie at BernieGallerani.com. If you need anybody wants to ask Josie any questions, she would be love to help. And I just want to say thank you. I've had fun doing this, so I appreciate you.
Thank you.
You know what we'll do?
What?
We'll make a commitment right now that we'll do an update again next year. So
Okay.
everyone can hold you accountable to your goal, whether it's 50 or 60, we'll let you make that choice. But let's do it again.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.